Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and today we're going to be talking about Hilaire Belloc and his view of the Protestant Reformation, or as I would call it, the Protestant Revolt. And so, to start off, he would consider it a catastrophe, but not necessarily a foregone conclusion. He saw it as the successful breakup of Western Christendom. Christendom had already been split prior by the Orthodox, so this was just a sort of a second breakup. So now Christianity was more or less broken into thirds, though of course there was Oriental Christianity, which he doesn't really touch on necessarily, but that might be because those I believe they reject the Council of Chalcedon. So the breakup of Western Christendom into now two Western Christendoms, basically a Protestant one that's not really held together either by much, except for resistance to the Catholic Church. And he saw the three phases of the Reformation and any sort of revolutionary event as the uncertain phase, uh, the victory phase or stalemate phase, and then the enduring uh, status of things, or enduring state of things. The and even when a losing side, you know, collapses or something like that, if there's a clear victory amongst one side, the losing side still remains a fiber of men who were molded by it. So it doesn't completely go away. So even if the Protestant Reformation had been um, unsuccessful, which it very much was in the sense that it broke up Christendom, but it wasn't completely victorious. So partially it was more of a stalemate. At least I think so. He seems to think more that it was a victory. And then which is very similar to the victory over the Albigensians. I mean, that was more of a complete victory. If you look at that, the Albigensians still, had influence afterwards, but it was more or less a complete destruction. So which I mean, led up to the Reformation as well. And then, if you look at a defeat for the Catholic Church, the defeat against the Mohammedans was, or as an example of that as well. The Catholic influence still sort of existed to some degree, but the and eventually the Mohammedans were pushed back very far, and eventually, the reclamation of Spain for Christendom. And the first phase of the Reformation almost had a Catholic victory, according to Belloc, and uh, and then he also believes that the Reformation and the wars surrounding it, the conflict surrounding this, actually ended in 1688, which I think most people would put it earlier, but I think it's because Belloc sees the deposing of James II and the Glorious Revolution as the fulfillment, as the fullness of the Protestant Reformation. Though, as I said, I think most historians would see it more maybe ending with the the 30 Years' War or something like that. But Belloc being, I mean, he was French, but he also was, English, or in the sense, or he was in England, he was British. And he sees those things as more central overall, I think. The first 20 years was really a battle against abuses. It wasn't clear whether or not the there was a real like conflict to destroy uh, the Catholic Church necessarily or uproot it, but there were different reformers, and how far they would go was very unclear. And then a change came when with Calvin, John Calvin, creating a counter church against the hierarchy of the church as and the papacy. And then following that was the looting of the monasteries, clerical endowments, churches, and episcopacies by the princes, which changed the whole system of the economy around. A drastic amount of money was taken from the church and put in new areas, new upstarts. And we're going to, as the series goes on, as I look further into Belloc's views on the Reformation, we're going to see that many of the upstarts were very crucial in this Protestant Revolution, which the Counter-reformation was reawakened, or was awakened um, very lately in the battle, in this sort of what I would consider anarcho tyranny, which a lot of people are using to sort of talk about the way things are with us, where basically the enemies of civilization are able to break all sorts of laws, destroy a bunch of stuff, pillage things, basically the summer of love type of thing, that with BLM and that sort of thing. That was similar to what was taking place in the Protestant Revolution, but it was a little more. It was probably equally organized, but it had the blessings of many of the princes, and so that's where you get sort of an anarcho tyranny that comes about, and the Catholic Church sort of responds very late with the Catholic Reformation. And people usually call it the Counter-Reformation, but many historians are lately calling it the Catholic Reformation because the Catholic Church reforms itself, not just countering the Protestants. And this leads to the fighting, the internal fighting of Christendom that does not lead to holding Christendom together, but a full separation between the basically Catholic princes and Protestant princes. And part of this is that there is a permanent revolution, a permanent Protestant revolution in these countries that looted the Catholic Church. Because if the Catholic Church were ever to return to these places, the fear of these people who looted it, basically the princes, uh, these new wealthy leaders like Thomas Cromwell, though Cromwell dies pretty quickly as well, but his legacy is carried on by his, I believe, nephew Oliver Cromwell, who is very important in the English Civil War. But the point is these uh, the noble classes and these new sort of upstarts and the princes, they are worried about having to be forced to give back the money that they stole, the all the stuff that they stole from the Catholic Church. So this is an incentive to keep the Catholic Church away from their power. And also, he Belloc sees the Reformation or the Protestant Revolt in England as very different from the other Reformations. So we're going to get into that in the future. The next episode will be about how he sees Henry VIII. And yeah, so I hope you all enjoy this series as I go through it, talking about how Belloc sees the Protestant Reformation. And thank you all for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And God bless. Bye.